I want you to pay attention to the premises treatments of Robert DeNiro regarding President Trump and regarding morality. They are high in the news and what he thinks is logic. See, New York City, there are more news predicate acts, and they have roles with the sciences names and with the names of the people of the sciences, but also of acting involved with all kinds of scams, all kinds of database racketeering, worse than war crimes, faked and changed communications between everyone, and little fake punk tricks to hide behind, little fake integrity natures as styles they can't defend that certain type of victim slash hyper victim only allowed to be. From off campuses, the differences between campuses A through Z at New York City, for example, A through Z, at states A through Z, but at New York City, we don't have a state named Z. We should make a state for the homeless and make, you know, we can make hyper positives out of negatives. We can make space means out of nowhere. How many space on the sides of highway and then people live next to that? They wouldn't mind having something like their backyard, like they have things for people to make habitat for wildlife. How about humanity? But we can't do it without addressing hyper criminal foreign influences at all locations, manifest as criminal foreign influences, black pupils. We have not had addressed how criminal foreign influences are involved with the breaching method that we employ functions by, where and how actually we have black people's rights of eyes and science's voice is proper with convictions or descriptions of instances or names or the value of them. There are predicate acts with facts methods that are much worse than crimes they're putting little kids in jail each day in New York City for, and much worse against them. Sustained people of each age of fact treatment nature. Elderly homes have probate court judges associated with them. Veteran homes, people are locked in there. There's a torture method there that's also manifest at prisons originally and still through my lifetime. People with the prison system of Connecticut has been planting evidences on all sides of my house with people associated with them at the corrections offices and the judicial branch offices who have been putting predicate acts roles and acting tied to it behind my back at the campuses I went. These are people on all sides of criminal and civil cases, locking the courts and the people on all sides of the cases and their lawyers. Lawyers are with all kinds of scams, fake motivations, even though they were real ones, they're mixed. There's even worse that's hidden there. These aren't people that's stupid naturally, leaving out black people's rights of eyes and what our founders communicated about that in the breaching method, replacing that with their word self-value, leaving out James Madison's roles with the founders before they got George Madison to agree, and then when they got him to agree. And since you guys are lying about all three natures of that, you cannot handle the nature of three Native Americans. Three natures of Native American founders discerned. Now, one has learned, because we all converge to help that body, even if we're not Native American. We will make a hyper tribe. We can have it run by a Native American. In other words, but it has to be. In other words, in other words, see president / chief. It's for a reason. There are proofs. It's more practical and more probable, and it's one of the counterpositions we must take together. Are ones who want to put. In other words, with this method, this program, you guys have to take to agree with it or not. But one position we're going to take relative to all kinds of delusions and criminally foreign influence, fact shaping nature, convictions, Quality aspects of nature associated with people with their convictions regarding what they call principles through history. For example, black people, bam, we will make them peer. We will make them see. We will make them soon discern. In other words, all we have to do is have mandated law followed properly. See, this has them showed them how they have to hide proper uses of all natures of words, let alone their groupings and protraction proper. Black pupils, whites of eyes. I'll see the whites of eyes. Don't shoot, ye evil each, where it counts. In other words, this will be cleaned up real fast. That's what the presidents and other leaders want. But you have people speaking about economies, pretending you don't realize there's a breaching method involved. Nature in itself shows us there's a breaching method at countries A through Z. You don't let that out. You don't tell them to ignore that. You don't speak on isms and leave out your delusions right there recorded. The only ism, even pantheism, it's all about. In other words, if it's an ism, it's not the hyper-visible, but still discernible. It's not the way that we could check. In other words, which true always. It also only gaining its value, also only positive onto itself, or is forced from here, is how it is what it's communicating to us. All we have to do is use its system. That which led the republic for which we stand. That which is the value simultaneously of the Constitution unabridged, and of why and of how we have rights too numerous to have to list, let alone to have to contend with police forms that are in courts that are refusing to identify themselves as collusions with people, intercities, with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, a whole bunch of different countries put in the same sequence shifts. Same war crime acts and methods rolls with that, with the same House/S right now increasingly involved, with more and more police that put more and more fake switching names and confessions involved, refusing to identify themselves or get on paper since I was a kid. Increasingly, people tied to mayors and police departments, intercities, have roles of the ones here now criminally involved. Increasingly, there are people tied to a Kerr family with police like a Officer Jerry Miller, who recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed him involved with them, planting evidences on all sides of my house. In other words, also they were pretending I was growing pot, and they filmed it with a drone on the social media on Facebook, as people involved further with principal upskirt nature before he was caught. And there are more on Twitter involved with the FBI with that. And they have people with the name Ian and people that live near him involved with their kids too. And the timing of when I walked by and the face they made. In other words, part of this is my fault because I freaked the whole neighborhood out because I caught them as roles with the people that with the time collusions, you while being and having been used remotely, the Saudi attackers too. They use the identity of America remotely and the identity of Saudi Arabia remotely increasingly. The roles with the Saudi with the other with Afghan leaders and kids through time, through decades, involved increasingly with people on my street with the name Kalal, with the Wethersfield police, forging and switching names, refusing to identify themselves. They recorded and confessed, demonstrated, confirmed there's people with the name Scalora involved. Also, Robert Rodriguez brought up the principal child abusers campus and names next to it involved like a Scalora involved with them with predicate acts and on my street and at the campuses next to them with sexual and medical offenders and their roles with criminal enterprises not legitimately. He said he lied to these are people tied by they lied to their girlfriends and they have shared cousins with the same house involved wire crimes as Wethersfield police and state judicial branch officers in conjunctions to it. They plant evidence as fake ties, fake nature's ties, intercities. On Facebook, too. Facebook itself has people with the name Scalora and a whole bunch of people tied to Scalora. There's a Mackenzie. He said there's a Mackenzie. There's a Kate Mackenzie he lied to with his cousins and people with the Wethersfield police phones involved intermilitaries. There are a bunch of Marines and people with the military and the Coast Guard involved with this Joshua Julian, involved with this Mike Violet, their parents, involved with that UConn, with the intelligence community, involved with Wethersfield, all along Ridge Road, people involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, planting evidences, crimes at corners of the streets, and crime rolls at corners of the streets with the news, and people involved with the Paul Kelly, with the Air Force, his neighbors have roles with the news, planting evidences at corners of streets and next to schools, identity theft and frauds, try to take pictures of people next to each other. They have all kinds of judges and probate. They have people with the names of Della Fera involved with probate court judges also at that corner through time, and people with whiting forensics increasingly involved with them, with various natures of organized crime involved all along Route 175 and their roles with corners with town line roads. Whole bunch of people. Nick Sweet will tell you, Fred Grisey and others at the town line of Wethersfield, Hartford, where the Wethersfield police station is now. He was influenced on Facebook too to plant evidences with them, with child abusers, leaders of kids before they were caught, and since people involved with the coaches and the differences of the coaches, the actors, Robert DeNiro. These are people involved with Channel 3 News and Gail King, with World Trade Center predicate acts, intercities, and people on off Central Connecticut State University involved with that, and her and them, with all kinds of black KKK theme with Confederate flag theme with the Brit Superior Court, Connecticut's District Court, and Hartford courts at West Hartford locations before the World Trade Center attack, and with a whole bunch of people involved also with the Wethersfield Community Center and the sides of it, as with roles with Russians and Americans, with fire departments, families, and the ones next to Hartford Hospital through time, involved time collusions, and then years later too, including their roles with fire departments. And there's an Inspector Mike. I don't know if it's a Mike Kerr or a Mike Delafair or a Mike Domain. Mike Domain is also one of the ones next to Fox News, Connecticut News, also with a Mike Kerr, also with people with the name Perone, involved also with the Violets and the military next to the state capitol there, next to as Fox Connecticut News. And they have journalists involved with them that have been invested with stories, hiding things, pretending not to realize things because their family members are involved too. Central Connecticut State University and other campuses, intelligence have roles with names at the spots next to the state capitol. I don't know the name of that street, like right near the train station. There is a Mark Carone and Kevin Carone. A whole bunch of people in Central Connecticut State University recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They have them involved with the ones next to Fox Connecticut News, and that train station there has something to do with the people at the spots along the Southstein Highway, and their roles with all sides of parks, planting fake ties, fake natures of ties to me, sequence shifts, identity theft, fraud, slanders. They jumped me one time in the dark, has nothing to do with that. It was also the timing of that. These are also people involved with the World Trade Center attack who have involvements with that. They don't even know about it. In other words, and these are increasingly people, so in other words, with Facebook pages of Wethersfield Police in the Britain Superior Court, have also with the news media. WFSB has inter-social media platforms, roles with more people involved with upskirt pictures, and the ones involved also with the threat of a guy to me who drove by on a bike and yelled out a name. And it was the timing of it was kind of close to a Phil Cololo. is one of the ones being demonstrated involved with a Bob Chase, involved with federal evidences crimes and predicate acts with a Phil Cololo on my street, and with people from Whiting Forensics involved with state police families interstates. Ray Cololo recorded, and Joe DeMoro recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. Also was Eric Jensen, that Mike Roberts and his neighbors were also involved with them, and people that work with a shopping center, with shopping centers and things like that, like a Robert Rodriguez and Daryl Chandler has roles with them with people from Korea, and people like the family members of a Delafair family have people from Korea involved with drugs and medicines crimes with little kids, and crimes with like wire crimes with the different police agencies and foreign and domestic intelligence all along like Saustine Highway and Route 3. I don't even know his son's names, but they know my names. I know two of their names. A Mike Panda, a Mike Delfero, and a Chris Delfero. Increasingly involved with predicate acts with people on 2 Route Highway, involved with identity theft from frauds with them. And they're boyfriends with other boyfriends at the same time with people on Valley Crest Street, associated with the people like this John DeMoro, who's also involved with people next to the state education department. So you have a whole bunch of people that are using and having used their titles at the same time as with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, a whole bunch of different countries, the news, the celebrities, the people placing ads on there, the difference of that of their collusions. They're preventing writing so they can keep out the foreign names because they already stacked all kinds of fake things in databases. Each campus I went to as people involved with this. Joe DeMoro is one of the ones that lived next to the campus. I went when I was in kindergarten, a fuller school. In other words, increasingly there's a Harris family and people associated with the Kevin Harris that have been planting evidences at schools and fake ties, fake natures of ties to people, and taking pictures to make illusions to pretend other and to hide what came first. They've been doing this with people I don't know their names. They know my name at Quinnipiac University, a Kevin Harris, a Brian Silver with the courts, and people with the name Leahy have predicate acts with people at Quinnipiac University, identity theft, fraud, slanders, all kinds of drugs and medicines crimes, fake conversations with me, forging doctors' names. In other words, and with their collusions with all kinds of criminal enterprises and private ones, and people with the houses and businesses next to Harvard Hospital involved with them, also intercities, intercampuses. Let's get them on paper, one name in sequence, please, Judge Napolitano. At least get one of the branches of government first. There are two female judges. There are more judges too, but two female judges, black and white, who are involved with some KKK black theme, Confederate flag theme, planting evidences with those courts, family members, and intimate ties in other countries at West Hartford locations before the World Trade Center attack. They affected requests to help permit, and then other narratives. So, in other words, I didn't tell people I was going to have to respond to that because there were other people who also demonstrated, confessed, kind of needs for help tied to that place, which is also reportedly the body dumping spot of a serial killer, even if it was made up. There's increasingly people tied to Mazzucato Bakery and to modern pastry involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and sequence shifts with a Jonathan Maiano and people tied to him involved with federal evidences crimes, identity theft, fraud, slanders, and differences rackets with a whole bunch of different countries and people tied to mayors involved and medical offenders. And this Rick Faglione also confirmed roles with this and demonstrated roles with this. Has something to do with their roles with predicate acts at Quinnipiac University. People that know my name, I don't even know their name. And this Kevin Harris and his mother planting evidences with kids, with drugs and medicines crimes with this Leahy family, and a whole bunch of people that doctors that Anthony Agnew said their names and they work at Hartford Hospital. He confessed them involved also with Mendez police brothers, They're also involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, attaching me to fake locations. They have roles with wire crime. He called me up when I was a kid. He has roles with overt criminal enterprises and private ones since he was a kid, attaching people to fake locations. His roles with differences rackets with some KKK Confederate flag themed at the same time, involved with various natures, police departments, and courts and their family members. Increasingly the roles with the names and natures next to the campuses. It's not legitimately how they're hiding life progressions by overtly demonstrating their collusions with the differences with the different brackets and natures of spots there that offensively come out with those differences and invest themselves incapable of having the federal or the states go back and look right. And these are people involved with the difference between federal rights, criminally foreign influence, investigators, or states criminally foreign influence investigators. Dear God, please, Judge Napolitano, get to my paper. Someone get me heard by him. But I'll show you how all those countries are involved with rackets here and there, and how really and why really. Everyone's using words like extremism and radical. You guys are leaving out how there's collusions here and there. We'll use that as evidences. Those psychiatry owes more than it takes too for Hartford, Connecticut alone. Forget about it. Fake and medicine, fake healthcare, and you're charging people for it. Get down.